Um, Today we're gonna continue speaking about nutrition because there's a lot of material to cover. I have added one session, so today would not be the last session speaking about nutrition. It would be the third session, and next Saturday I will complete discussion about nutrition. So per someone's request, I start with what can be potentially in our water. So as I mentioned before, I am basically focusing on the topics or agents or questions that American Cancer Society has focused on. So we're going to speak about arsenic. Yes, arsenic can be in our water. So arsenic has been categorized as group 1, meaning carcinogen, no probable carcinogen, for sure carcinogen, to humans. And there are two types of arsenic. There's a organic form of it, and there's an inorganic form of it. And the link between cancer and arsenic is between the inorganic form of arsenic and arsenic, because the organic part of it is less toxic. So arsenic in general could be naturally occurring element that can be found in rocks, soil, water, air, plants. Okay, welcome. It could be also found in animals as well as industrial and agricultural compounds. Inorganic form is usually found in industry or building products such as pressure treated wood, and also found in arsenic contaminated water, as I mentioned. It is linked with lung, bladder, and skin cancers. It can be found in seafood, rice products, mushrooms, poultry, some fruit juice can contain arsenic. In certain areas of the United States of America, geographically, Southwest, and New England, and Upper Midwest, there is a high concentration of arsenic. Also, water that comes from wells contains more arsenic. So one thing that anyone can do, whether you're in the United States or Europe, you have the right when you are getting water from public or from private company, you have the right to ask for exact composition of the water you're receiving, basically asking what is in the water that you're drinking or you're being provided with. And they do very good lab work and give you whatever is in your water. You're entitled to knowing that information. One of the things that is protective, even though folate is good for everything, but it is something that particularly protects against arsenic. Now, it is said that when you live in an area that there's high level of arsenic in your water, recommendation by American Cancer Society is to use bottled water. So that brings us to the next subject, which is containers that we use for whether it's water or food. As you know, most of our water, at least in United States groceries, they're bottled in plastic bottles. And plastic contains substances called phthalates which are considered possible carcinogenics. They also have phenolic compounds such as bisphenol A, which is another probable carcinogen, which can get into your food or water during the process of storage, especially when the temperatures go a little bit high. It doesn't need to be really high, but even when the bottle becomes warm, starts seeping these compounds into water or food. But the worst case scenario is when you use, or somebody uses, plastic containers to heat their food in microwave. That's recipe for disaster. The other containers that are possibly carcinogen are Teflon coated cookware, because they contain these chemical called perfluorooctanoic acid, or PFOA, and it gets into your food when you're using Teflon cookware. So you're basically eating it. These compounds can also affect onset of puberty in children, because phthalates and some of the material in the plastic can very much mimic estrogen. So they would affect onset of puberty. They can be a possible factor in long-term risk for cancer, such as breast cancer. With that, we're going to move on to another group of chemicals called acrylamides. These are group 2 carcinogens, meaning probably carcinogenic. These are based on studies on animals, not humans. They are formed by a byproduct when amino acid asparagine reacts with certain sugars in high temperatures, and that is when acrylamide would be produced. It is most commonly found in French fries, potato chips, crackers, cookies, bread, breakfast cereal, canned black olive, I never knew that, prune juice, and even coffee. So how these foods are produced can facilitate production of this acid, this amino acid at high temperatures. So that is another possible carcinogen that we can be ingesting through the foods that I mentioned. I think I briefly spoke about microwaving, but I don't mind repeating it. American Cancer Society considers microwave to be safe. A microwave is a form of non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation. Now, the radiation that we receive, for example, for treatment of cancer, it's a non-ionizing radiation, but it's not considered electromagnetic. It's really either a photon beam or electron or proton beam. We discussed this in the first, I think, second or third sessions in details. But microwave, basically the way it acts is by producing the device or appliance produces these non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation. And we discussed that one of the most important factors to avoid is high temperatures in cooking our food. Therefore, grilling, smoking, pan frying meat, poultry, fish at high temperature can cause cancer-causing byproducts. And also we discussed that there's certain types of chemicals called nitrates that can be converted in our stomach into another product, that product by itself is carcinogenic. We also discussed last time that even drinking beverages that have high temperature, that by itself can increase the risk of cancer of esophagus and stomach. Now, irradiating food, and I'm not talking about microwave, I'm talking about food industry, using the very same radiation that is used for treatment of cancer to treat the products that we are buying at grocery stores, meat especially. They treat with radiation, poultry, fish, and the reason that they do that is that they want to increase the shelf life of the product by killing the bacteria, germs, or insects in the products. This is on top of all the pesticides and herbicides that has been already applied to the food. Now, again, I take this with a grain of salt, but American Cancer Society considers irradiating food safe, to be safe. It is not something new. It has been used for the past 30 years, treating our food, what we buy at grocery stores. The other factor that perhaps applies or used to apply to me a lot is sleep. Sleep is a magical, genius process that our bodies desperately need. When we get a good night of sleep, meaning that our brain waves drop into alpha, in a good quality sleep, our body becomes paralyzed. The main purpose of it is that we don't enact our dreams. So somebody who is a sleepwalker, they are partially enacting their dreams by walking around. They're not paralyzed, obviously. So they're at a different level of brain waves. But the main purpose of being paralyzed, which basically prevents you from going to the bathroom during the night, paralyzes a lot of bodily functions, because you don't want to be in a fight in a dream and then get up and start fighting somebody who's sleeping next to you. That's one of its functions. But the main function of it is that it puts our bodies in a state of repair. At night, when we go to bed, if we sleep well, all the DNA repair, all of the damage that has been done to our certain DNAs, cells, all the toxins, everything that's happened to us during the day is going to be repaired and restored during the night. You can get an upgrade of your genes in addition to repair of damaged genes when you're having a deep sleep. Now, for a society that is chronically sleep deprived, including our children, we have to wake up our children to take them to school at a certain time. And whenever you wake up with an alarm or somebody wakes you up from your sleep, it's a disruption of that very natural process of repair. So a good night of sleep, by definition, is 7 hours or longer. And it is when you naturally fall asleep and you naturally wake up. You don't wake up by an alarm, which basically immediately makes your adrenals start secreting steroids because you get that jump by the alarm when you wake up. So it has been associated, lack of sleep has been associated with obesity, craving sugar, high stress hormone levels, high inflammation in the body, and it is also associated with the most common disease in the United States, which we discussed last time, and that is metabolic syndrome, which basically has everything to do with the levels of sugar in our body, the stress our pancreas is under to follow the spikes of sugar with the spikes of insulin. Diabetes mellitus and obesity are part of the metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome itself has been linked with a variety of cancers. Therefore, if you don't get a good night's sleep, you're at high risk of metabolic syndrome, and because of high metabolic syndrome, you're at risk of getting cancer, a variety of cancers. So very, very important to have a very good night of sleep. For people who work night shifts, for example, it used to be that American Cancer Society said that women who work night shifts, they had a higher risk of breast cancer. The sleep that they were taking during the day was not really equivalent to the quality of sleep one gets at night naturally, because our pineal gland and all our brain responds to light during the day. In the morning, when light enters your room or you come out and you're exposed to light, a whole different series of neurochemicals would be secreted, such as serotonin. And at night, you have mainly the dominant one is melatonin. Now, this year, they removed that and they said that, well, it's not proven. And I think it has something to do with what a person who works a night shift does during the day to try to mimic or reproduce a situation that body perceives as night. I myself have dealt with insomnia for 30 years. And there's literally nothing that I have not tried. But one of the things that, and as a physician, I used to have night shifts during my internship, medical student, residency. So what I learned was that if I got into absolute dark, so whether I was in a room without any windows, or I was in a room that I had painted the window or sealed it completely, that no amount of light would enter the room, then I had earplugs, and I had, on top of that, I had eye covers, reproduce the darkness and the silence that we take advantage of at night. And if I made the hours to be certain hours, so if I was working from, say, 8 to 8, and I got home at 9 in the morning, then I would go to bed every day at 9 a.m. and wake up at, so go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time. So the body has this rhythm that we naturally have, circadian rhythm, that is as a result of exposure to light, and mimicking that situation. So body has a routine, knows where the sleep, when the sleep is coming, and when you're sleeping, you're not sleeping in a room exposed to light, noise, sound, that basically does not allow you to get to that depth that is necessary for recovery of body, restoration of body, rejuvenation of body, repair of DNAs, and mutations in the genes, toxins, all kind of that. So that is difficult. If somebody always working a night shift, that's good, in the sense that then they have their day free. But as physicians, we did not have that luxury. During my internship, I worked 36 hours in a row. I started this morning at 7 a.m. and finished 7 p.m. next day. So I could not mimic the night sleep during the day because I was working. So I basically slept every other night. And that is exactly when my sleep problem began 30 years ago. So with that, I'm gonna stop here because next week I will be discussing nutrition during treatments. And by now, after 3 sessions, we are basically done with prevention and subjects that are under question. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.